Welcome, everyone. Today is August 15th, 2023. This is our 26th episode of the RCN show, and it's my pleasure and our pleasure to have you on board and take it on in. You're with Stephen for a reason and doing well with Michelle. Nice to have you back on here, Michelle. How are you doing?
Oh man, it's a pleasure to be back. I really missed it last week.
Okay, great. So that said, today's show is our 26th episode, and we're chatting with George Tremis. Now, I've known George for probably a greater part, about a year and a half now or more even. He's just a very, very interesting, fantastic human being. A guy I met who was a realtor, a broker for that matter, out of the Toronto area. And he's a real estate broker. He's the founder of GT Realty Group. He's an EXP Realty Brokerage, sales trainer, speaker, and consultant. So I'm going to bring on George right now as we speak. Hello, George. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. You are one special guy, and I feel truly humbled and grateful for you to be joining us today. And let's just go to it first, and let's find out a little bit about what you were before a realtor, what got you to become a realtor, and what you're doing in the future. So that's the purpose of what we want to get out of you right now. You're in what we call the hot seat. So tell us what your experience is like first, George. Where did you come from before you were a real estate agent?
There was life before real estate?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I can't remember that past life.
Yeah.
So if we go way back before real estate, which we're going back about 10 years plus, I worked for Fortune 50 companies. So I went to business school. I did a number of degrees, designations and stuff because I thought, hey, I want to be the CEO of a Fortune 50 company. The last corporation I was working with was Johnson & Johnson, their pharmaceutical division. Now, things have changed. Life things happen. You know, we adapt, we overcome, just like the Navy SEALs motto. And at that time, I was exploring other options. I thought, okay, you know what? I'm at a transition point. Let me try something different. A friend of mine was a realtor. He's actually in my group now. And he said, you know what? I think you'd be a fantastic realtor. But in the meantime, let's flip some houses. And I said, hey, that's great. It works great on the TV shows. Let's do this. And so, and so for the most part, you know, I was fortunate enough to do that in a rising market or an upturn market. So any mistakes I made and, you know, bumps, you know, learning curves and such were washed away by a climbing market, fortunately. So I did well with that. And I decided I really liked real estate more than I'd ever realized. And that's when I became licensed, eventually got my broker designation, etc. So that was kind of life before real estate and then the start of real estate. As I went along, I started to realize that I just love the human aspect of real estate and interacting with people and what is actually truly sales. So the irony is, and I talk about this, is, you know, I was always a sales professional, but I was everything but. I was a product consultant. I was a marketing manager. I was a product specialist. I was a consultant. At the end of the day, no. I was a salesperson. And once I realized that and embraced it, and my whole mindset shifted around what it means to be a salesperson and a sales professional, because they're not the same thing, I really leaned into and embraced it. And I realized just how valuable sales is, the knowledge of sales, and what sales professionals do for us in the economy is unbelievable. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I got to where I am now.
Okay, so you went from being an employee, if you will, for a very large company. You learned your sales experience there. You got into real estate investing and house flipping. You fell in love with real estate at that stage, and then you became a realtor. Now, I'm not sure if you are picking up on this or not, Michelle, but right off the bat, I bet you he's already starting to speak language that you're familiar with, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay. So, George.
Story.
No, that's okay. So, George, you're now established as a realtor. How long have you been an agent for?
Almost 10 years.
Okay. And how long have you been a broker for?
Almost 8 years. So you need to put in 2 years, or at least where I am, before you can become a broker. So once I hit that 2-year mark, I immediately engaged in the process to become a broker.
Okay. So now this is my big question. Oh, I got lots of questions for you, but there's so many different specialties and designations for realtors, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so.
Do you have any of those specialties or designations?
Some are realtor specific, some aren't. So,
Okay.
and some of them are hybrid. So, for example, I have the Master Certified Negotiation Expert designation, and it's a hybrid format between real estate and just the program that Harvard offers. So, Harvard allows individuals or choice individuals to distribute their content and teach and certify individuals. And so, I went through a real estate stream of the negotiation program to get that designation. Wow.
And that was through Harvard?
Yeah, the backbone or the course fundamentals are Harvard, but they deliver it through partners. So I went through the program with a partner instead of flying down to Harvard.
Okay. I was just starting to get some feedback there again. Sorry about that. So, all right. So that's pretty incredible. A lot of education went into this, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I also did the Certified Luxury Home Marketing Specialist designation out of the U.S., Certified Sales Professional, which is the Canadian Professional Sales Association. So there's a lot of designations that, overlap with real estate, but I think that's because fundamentally, I don't know if everybody realizes that real estate is one of the core sales professional professions. I mean, really, if we're being true sales professionals, that's our objective as realtors and servicing our clients. And that means the full spectrum from needs identification, et cetera, ensuring that there's alignment and opportunity to help that person achieve their goals, right through to the negotiation and being an expert at negotiating. I mean, that's the full spectrum of a sales professional. And then follow up afterwards, right?
Absolutely. Look at sales are a whole process. You either love them or you hate them, and they're gut wrenching. They're like I say, they're always this roller coaster of peaks and valleys, and follow-ups are absolute key. Like there's never a sale. If you get a sale from a cold call or from a first touch, go and buy a lottery ticket that day, like crazy, right? So, I mean, that's part of it that I guess I find so interesting about you in particular is, okay, so you've done this for 10 years. There's many realtors out there that have done it for 30 years or plus, whatever. You're doing extremely well. I read on some of your materials that you are in the top 3% of the Toronto area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, that's a heck of a benchmark. And to me, sorry for saying, but in 10 years, that's a short time to be able to get to that level. And there's got to be reasons why you're getting to that level. So let's talk a little bit more about the customer relationship that you have with your clients. And what's that relationship like from, start to where you are today?
That's a great question. Very broad one. It's you're really getting me thinking here. I think the customer relationship fundamentally begins with first ensuring that there's a fit, right? So even if you want to go to lead generation, prospect calling, and people say, I'm not interested in working with you, for example, my authentic, sincere response is, well, you know what? I don't really know if I can help you yet, or if we're meant to work together until I determine that. And I really mean that, because you need to have an alignment. No one is for everyone, right? And I think that's where I set up the client experience for success by ensuring that there's a good fit and alignment with the people I work with right from the start. I think, how you begin something is kind of sets the tone for how you see it through.
Beautiful. And I always like how well worded you are. And that question wasn't meant to be asked to try to be too broad or whatnot. The reason why I asked that question, George, is because you are so successful at your business. But what I really appreciate is the non-hustle hustle that you do. And what I mean by that is because we're in this world, we see so many realtors trying to tell the world how much they love them, how much they're grateful for them, and what they can do for them. And you know what? You are educating people as compared to that hustle side approach. And that's what really caught my attention. When I remember very, very clearly when I first started going to your LinkedIn page, you can see some winter months and the toque activity in your car. You have a lot of very, very good educational content. And I want to keep pointing that out because that's different than your traditional, thanks everybody for your business. I want to be your realtor and I want to list your home. You're educating people. And I want to ask you this question now. And out of 100%, what percentage do you think is educating your clients?
It's a good question. I don't know about percentage, but I would say it's pretty much part of everything. And I'll tell you why, because even the sales process itself should be about educating, and it should be about helping people buy. So helping them find their why behind the buy. So I don't believe in selling stuff. I believe in helping people buy. And if you're going to help them buy, they need to be informed, both intellectually, logically, and emotionally, to make the right decision. So I think, empowering them with knowledge and consultative information is critical throughout the entire process. Like I won't pick a certain percentage, but I would say it's 100% of everything we do.
See, and that's what I love, because we didn't just talk about this huge customer satisfaction program that you offer and how you're here to love, love, love. You're here to educate. And I think that's a big difference in a sales personality that I see from you on a regular basis. Is you're there for the person, you're a customer, your clients are your customers for life. All of that's in check. But there's like a realistic educational approach to how you're handling things. And I know that you have interest in public speaking. You're writing a book right now.
Correct.
Is this more of an extension of that educational angle that you offer people?
So a couple thoughts around that. I mean, first of all, I think, you're very astute in your observations and your assessment of people and how they do business. And I think the best example is I love it when my clients love me and we almost become friends or family. But at the same time, I don't seek it out. So I don't believe friends buy from friends. I think that's a false misconception. It's sold to people that come into any sales profession. I think it's a disservice to people. And the reality is, just think about it. You go to your doctor. I'm not friends with my doctor, but I respect what my doctor says. I trust my doctor, and we collaboratively come to conclusions on how to manage my healthcare outcomes. That's the way I see myself. I'm not here to be your buddy. If we become buddies, great. But that's not my job, And so, so that's the first part of what I'd say. And then I think that I want to continue to educate and share what I've learned. And sometimes I even, question myself and say, George, you should be more humble. But then I say, you know what, there's somebody I can help, and help with my insights, my experience, etc. And also it helps the people who work with sales professionals that benefit from my coaching, my consulting, my book that I'm going to roll out. And I would love to see everybody take the approach of helping people buy instead of trying to sell something down their throat. I mean, I love Wolf of Wall Street. It's a great movie, but pick up the phone and force it down their throats. It's great Hollywood. It's not great sales.
Okay, so Michelle, I'm going to put this on to you. So George, you don't know Michelle very well, but doing well with Michelle, it's because her role in the financial world in the States is dedicated to helping people. Okay, so George, say if you were in the States and you had a client that didn't qualify for a mortgage as per se, instead of just going on to the next person and on, this would be a perfect referral client for Michelle. But Michelle, that word help that George just mentioned about 6 times is your lingo. So do you have any points or questions at all to add to George right now, Michelle?
I do, but I'm so amazed by his story and all that he has done up to this point. I have a question though, because there are some viewers out there that are anticipating to become realtors, and in any industry, we know that it doesn't just you could just don't pop out there, be a realtor, and everything just happens. Can you kind of give the example of your starting point and how because along the way there are some failures, and failure is part of success. Can you tell some of yours, please?
So that's a great question and a great point. And to talk about, a lot of people thinking about becoming realtors. And funny enough, I've had 2 texts like that over the last week. Hey, George, I'm thinking about becoming a realtor. What advice would you give me? So this is a great opportunity to share with them. I hope they're watching, and everyone else, that I think the right approach is to 100% have in your head, I'm going to go 18 months just servicing people. Just service. I'm not going to make $1. And if you can wake up every morning and show up your best self for them and for you for 18 months and not make $1, then you've got the right mindset to do this. I think too many people are going into it saying, I'm going to make quick money. Look at 2% on $1 million, the average home price. Damn, that's $20,000. Wow, you're setting yourself up to fail. That's my thought. Now, everybody's journey is going to be a little different. I was blessed because I worked for so many Fortune 50 companies. I had a huge network. I've done my MBA, so I have colleagues, etc. But just to touch back on something we discussed earlier, not a single friend sent me business or bought from me or sold with me until years into my time as a realtor. A couple of reasons for that. Not because they don't like you or me, not because they don't respect you, but hey, it's the biggest purchase majority of people will ever make in their lives. And, they may love you, but they want somebody that they feel can take care of their interests as best as possible. And until you've put in some time, they see you as the person that they knew from 10 years ago, or in some cases, the guy from high school. So it's hard for people to rationalize the two. So don't bank on friends and family right out the gate. They'll come eventually. Have that 18-month mindset. I'm going to service. I have savings to do it. And this is the way I'm going to build a career and a future in real estate. Not get rich today. That's my opinion and advice.
Yeah.
Anything else, Michelle, you want to ask right now? Yeah. Sorry if there's a bit of a delay there. Sorry, Michelle, I was just asking if there's anything else you wanted to pose or to question at this point before we go on to some of the other topics that George is going to talk about.
George, do you ever deal with commercial real estate, or are you just into home buying, home selling?
That's a great question. And, I'm sure you work with many realtors, and so that kind of fueled that question. The majority of realtors stay away from commercial. I find that there's some residential realtors who will work in commercial like myself, or they decide to try to exclusively be commercial and they go to CBRE or one of the commercial-oriented brokerages. But I myself, I do work in commercial. I'm very familiar, having owned multiple businesses and still do. I'm familiar with contracting, my business background, etc. And the truth of the matter is, I think a lot more realtors could work in commercial if they trusted themselves more or had the guidance or mentoring to do so. Because I don't know, I might get booed for this, but it's not that hard. It's not that much more challenging, So. And it depends on what you're working on, right? I mean, just right now, I was just working on a commercial lease before coming onto this call. So I've worked with other realtors who are less familiar with commercial. And then after we do a few transactions, as long as it's still within the general scope of what we did, they're fine by themselves at that point. So yes, I do commercial. And I think a lot more realtors, sales professionals could do commercial real estate as well.
I got a question for you. So say you work with a client who has problems with their mortgage approval. What do you do with that, George? Do you just say, sorry, I'll wait for you to get better approval? Do you refer that to somebody? How do you work with that situation?
Well, am I a salesperson or a sales professional? Am I a solo operator or am I the quarterback of the team? I like to see myself as the quarterback of the team. So, I mean, I've never had the opportunity to work with Michelle, and unfortunately we're in different countries, but if I get down into, the States, we'll see what we can do. But up here, if somebody has that challenge, part of my job is to help them score a goal, to get them past the goal line. And I need a team to do that. And so if there's a problem right away, I pick up the phone to Michelle. I'm like, Michelle, this is a situation. What are we going to do to get this person the right home at the right price, the right thing for them? And that's where, the sum of the parts, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Like together we create that synergy for our clients. So no, I'm not going to turn my back on them just because I can't make a quick sale. Right. I'm a salesperson, not a professional.
Well, I appreciate that. But at the same time, there's so many other agents that are so eager to close deals that they're going to be like, hey, well, that's, it's a bit of a speed bump onto the next. Right. And I think that I'm not surprised to hear your comment there about the teamwork side of things, George. I appreciate that. So let's just move on to your book now. How far away are you from completing your book? And what would you say the general thesis of that book is?
So thank you for asking that. And I'm smiling because the book is actually taking longer than I thought. I've never written a book before, and I like to do things right. And I even have a great editor, but it's still taking longer than I expected. Mm-hmm. And the hardest challenge I have is reining it down into one book. So, I mean, I even say that this is not meant to be a compendium. It's more like a sampler for all the different areas I want to talk about. And then I'm sure I'll write subsequent material, or what I'm going to call training manuals, because I believe in training, right? Just like going to the gym, if you're a sales professional, you should be training your skills on a regular basis consistently. And so that's what the purpose of the book is. Now, my goal is to have it first draft done by next month and hopefully out, before the end of the year. That's my ultimate goal. Now, in terms of content, I touch on everything from your own rapport with yourself. So it's one of the concepts that I've never heard anybody say before, to be honest with you. And I came up with it because everybody talks about being in rapport with a prospect, right?
Yeah.
Be in rapport. They won't buy if you're not in rapport. 100% true. But what about being in rapport with yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm not in rapport with myself and I showed up to this call and I was in a bad mood or out of rapport, you're not going to like me. Your audience is not going to like me, and I'm not going to bring much value. So rapport starts with yourself before with anyone else, in my opinion, anyway.
Okay, so I've known you long enough to know that you've got a morning routine, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's one thing you have in common with Michelle. Michelle has a routine. She punishes herself. She doesn't get things done. She won't even drink a cup of coffee until she does. But what's your morning routine?
Sorry?
What is your morning routine that you do every morning? Because that really caught my attention before getting to know you.
Well, it's like I read your mind that you're going to ask that. But what I really want to know is, I don't know what I don't know. So, I mean, I'd love to actually hear from Michelle, what her morning routine is, and then see if we can exchange notes here.
Okay, Michelle, what's your routine?
Well, my routine is getting to know people, first of all. I mean, I have a good relationship with myself, and like you said, you have to have good rapport with yourself before you can have good rapport with someone else. So my ideal morning would be to contact people that are in my target market and get a conversation with them. Or first thing I do is I always tell everybody happy birthday, because when you tell people happy birthday, it makes them feel important enough in your life, even if you know them or not. And they also want to know who you are because you told them happy birthday, and it makes them to go check you out and say, oh, okay, let me see what Michelle does, or let me see what George does. And then that raises their curiosity enough to want to message you back. So, I think that's my most important part of my morning, is telling people happy birthday. The second thing is I go and I do social media. So social media is my thing, and I go engage with lots and lots of people. I talk to them, especially if they're having a bad day. I help them overcome the challenges in their day, put a smile on their face, and tell them I'm always there for them. I'm here for you anytime you want to talk. So, it's just bringing people out of, maybe they're not having a good day, or maybe they're having a good day, and tell them what their post meant to me. Like, that's such a good post. It put a smile on my face, and some people want to hear that. So I always, every day I do that, and then I go in and I do messages to people, not spammy messages, not sales messages, not try to get money, things like that. It's not about that. It's about building a relationship through different ways, and putting them in contact with the services that you provide, even though they may not need those services right then. They may know somebody that needs the services, and they have, because I get asked all the time, do you know a realtor? Do you know someone that can do a bid on my home, or give me an estimate on what it's worth, or something like that? So if they don't know that you exist out there, then of course they're not ever going to call you. They're going to call somebody else. So that's the main things that I do each and every morning.
George, what do you do every morning?
Well, I think that was great. I mean, what couple takeaways from what Michelle said was, I mean, like the smiling piece. I always say, if you can get somebody smiling, you can get them buying, right? It helps people to get past whatever negative and no's that they have in their life at that point in time, and opens them up to possibilities. So I think that's fantastic. And the other thing Michelle talked about is not just pushing social media, but pulling by commenting on other people's content. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, enough about me. Let's talk more about me. And that's just human nature. We love to talk about ourselves and get compliments about what we do and recognition, and we live for that, right? And it's a social proof kind of reinforcement to help us be a better society, really.
Well, Michelle's an expert at recruiting, George. I mean, that's her expertise, and it just comes naturally to her. And that's one of the things that connected us in the first place. But yours is a little bit different. Yours has got a little bit more psychology behind it, does it not? Your routines?
Yeah. So, I mean, the psychology piece plays into the mindset component of my morning routines, right? So definitely once I'm at the office, I do engage in, CRM in terms of reaching out to my clients and managing those relationships. And I use tools and platforms for that as well. But I mean, it starts the night before. So the night before I kind of say, okay, what are the 5 things out of the 5 things that I was going to do today, high priority items, what didn't I finish? And then I'm going to put it on for my morning. That way I don't challenge myself first in the morning to try to think about what are going to be my deliverables for the day, right? So there's something called ego fatigue and decision fatigue. So the less you can take decisions out of your day, the more processing power you save for other things like creating a book. So I start the night before. And then in the morning, before I reflect on my goals, I'll have some stretching. I'll wake up. I'll do the usual stuff like brush your teeth, but I'll have some affirmations playing in the background, and it has to be very personalized. Don't just listen to anything. It has to resonate with you. The way they say the words, the voice, everything. So that's programming my mind while I'm still coming out of a sleep state, because there's that transition point where your brain's more susceptible to input. Yep. Just like when you're in the shower, just like a high after working out. These are times where your brain's more programmable. So I try to feed it first thing in the morning with stuff that'll help me for success for the day. Then I'll move on to journaling. So I use it's called a 5-minute journal. I mean, I bought it off Amazon, and it's great. You go through your goals, your affirmations, what would make today a great day. And then at the end of the day, you go back to it and you say, what was amazing that happened today and what achievements did I accomplish, right? So you start your day with positivity and success, and you end it with success. I also have a meditation routine along with the stretching. And then it depends how much time I have and what's going on that day. I might do some morning cardio before I hit the office. And then I'll hit the office. And then at some point during the day, I'll hit the gym as well.
Amazing. Amazing. So, I mean, Toronto is a very busy city. And I mean, my son's now back with us here, and he went through it. He's like, holy crap, Dad, this city's a non-sleeping place. It's just constantly go, go, go. And I think you're the epitome of it, except for the fact that you're very orientated and on spot with yourself and in tune with what you're doing. So you're a public speaker, you're a sales trainer, and you're a consultant. Well, we just learned about some of your sales training. Tell us more a little bit about what your public speaking is like, where do you do it, and what are some of the upcoming events you might have?
So full disclosure, I'm very much at the early stages of my public speaking, and I welcome any opportunities to speak, and we can work out arrangements. I'm at the point where I want to give before I get. Okay, so I mean, read between the lines as you will, audience. I'm here for that. Now, to give you specifics to your question, I mean, for example, I presented at the property show. If you want to look in a real estate context, I delivered a course. Proprietary course called Negotiate to Know, where I cover negotiation concepts, intermediate, up to intermediate. And then I also delivered a presentation called Money Mountain. Money Mountain is very much about mindset. So it's all about your passion, persisting, and your purpose to achieve the highest success you can and climb that money mountain. There's a whole bunch to it, including the fact that I say money's worthless until it's connected to something more important than money. And that's how you achieve the peak of the mountain. So I mean, I won't go into the whole thing, but I do in my workshops, and I talk about how I chased money for a very long time. And my success was like this, erratic, until I stopped chasing the money and I started chasing the purpose. And then things changed. And when I connected that purpose to something more than buying a Ferrari or whatever else I had in my mind at the time, and to something greater, self-actualization, if you want to look at Maslow's hierarchy, as soon as I targeted the self-actualization, the money just came and it became an afterthought. And so this is what I talk about in Money Mountain. So I'm actually delivering that in 2 weeks to a group of realtors. I'm speaking again at the property show. I've delivered similar content to Mavati. It's a chain of gyms here in Canada. So I teach like sales reps for gyms in the fitness industry as well. I delivered it in auto body context, so for like estimators and salespeople in auto body across different industries. So, but I'm looking for more and more opportunity.
See, maybe working with Michelle and some of her colleagues might be a good fit, just because you're in different countries. The mindset in those lessons you're talking about, George, I think everyone can gain from.
I'd love to. Any opportunity, anywhere, anytime.
So, Michelle, what do you think of that? Is that an open door for a good connection or what?
I don't know if you can hear me because it's been
Yeah,
like
we can.
cutting in and out a little bit. But Stephen, you just read my mind. I was gonna say, man, what a value it would be to have George speak to my team. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I can only do so much, and they hear one person, but when they
Yeah.
hear George speak, it's going to mean a lot to them because it's somebody new and fresh, and they can
And
glean
right.
from that. So I really appreciate. Go ahead.
I
So that's the
Can you
whole
hear me?
purpose of this RCN show, guys, is because we can all learn something from everyone. You know what? George, you just told us a very nice, rounded story from conception of being a realtor, being in sales, to where you are today, a very successful realtor and broker, to writing your book, to being a sales trainer, a speaker, and a consultant, and being willing to share, to me, is the ultimate. I always tell
Mhm.
people, the biggest compliment someone can give you is a referral. All
Oh, yeah.
right. And that's why I live by that. And I say it almost every time I come online. But I also think one of the biggest things and compliments would be somebody like Michelle, who's got a team of people
Mm-hmm.
that can gain from you. And then it just starts to get this wheel going. The comment I wanted to share with you, or reiterate, was your ups and downs when you're following
Mm-hmm.
that money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that an experience like helping and coaching people, it's got nothing to do with making that money, but it's going to be that soul. It's going to be that reward that's going to keep on giving for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, I'd absolutely agree with it. And I mean, so several years ago, so my personal development journey really started, I'd say, when I hit 40, kind of like a midlife crisis thing, maybe. Anyway, I did a bunch of other things, is why people say I had a midlife crisis, like race motorcycles and all kinds of other stuff. But
Wow.
anyway, we won't talk about that right now. But I listened to a quote from Denzel Washington where he
Yeah.
said, the most selfish thing you can do is give, because it comes back to you. And something about Denzel and what he said resonated with me. And I said, that's it. This is the way I'm living. I'm going to believe in it. And you know what do I have to lose anyway? Let me
Right.
live my life like this. If it turns out to be BS, that wasn't swearing, was it? Then I can just change. But once I embrace that concept, there's always going to be the odd person who's a, sorry, did you need me to pause?
No, 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 no. It's all good.
There's going to be the odd person who's maybe a taker in life, but for the majority of people, it's about reciprocity, right? When you give, you get back. And I'm a strong
Yeah.
believer in that. And,
Well,
I want to comment on something that Michelle said as well. It's an incredible sign of leadership that Michelle has no problem bringing somebody else on stage. And I'll tell you why, because I own businesses and I have employees and contractors as well.
yeah.
And it's like you need to have, you can be super successful, but you need to have somebody else come up on the stage, somebody different, like Michelle acknowledged. And even if you want to go back to the Bible, in the Bible, Jesus had to leave Nazareth because he was known as the woodworker of Nazareth, not as Jesus the prophet. And so it even says in the Bible, you have to leave your own town to be a prophet. And
Wow.
so, in your own company, you can't be the prophet. You can be a respected leader, but you can't be that outside voice bringing a message. That's my belief anyway.
That's pretty amazing. You know what? I think you probably touched a lot of hearts with that comment right there. I just pulled up your screen here as being an expert with our Talk to the Experts program, George. I want to personally thank you for supporting us from day one and out of the blocks. That's huge to me. But two, you are the epitome of the expert that I wanted to get out there. Okay. So for me to share you, to share this show, to share this experience, is everything that being an expert's about. And that's the same thing with Michelle. Michelle is in every city in the States, George, every one of them. And it's because not only has she supported us from day one, her team, Thrive, has supported us, and they're members of us, are experts as well. But it's because of the messaging, and it's because of that. And we are at infancy stages. This is the way that I look at it, is that we are at an incredible infancy stage because of all the years of experience and trials and tribulations and lessons that we've had to give birth to this incredible platform and ideology and follow through. And we are doing the same thing by putting you guys out there, because you guys are the ones that are going to make a difference in people's lives. And I can't appreciate that enough and say thank you enough, because that means everything. Now, George, you have a 1-866 number. Is that a number that people can reach out to you if they are looking to have a discovery call with you?
Absolutely. I mean, it'll channel them to my brokerage. So my brokerage will field the call, and they just ask for me, and the brokerage will connect the call to me as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, definitely. They know my name at the brokerage.
All right. So that number to get hold of George is 1-866-530-7737. Okay. I'm not letting you go right off the bat, but I wanted to share the screen because you are a unique leader in the pack. So I got to ask this question. This is a very unique conversation. You're a very unique individual.
Thank you.
Would you say that the other, generally speaking, no right or wrong answers here, but those other iconic realtors, do you think they operate the same way as you do, George, or are they similar to the way that you operate, or do you think the way that I do, that you're one unique fish in a different ocean?
Well, first, thank you, Stephen, very, very much. And also, before I touch on that, I want to say thank you for asking me to be part of, Talk to the Experts and RCN. And, honestly, over the years, I've heard a lot of people try to build what you've created. And I think that they just weren't you, so they couldn't do it. I'll just leave it at that. And so it took somebody like you to start to create this and build this. And I do believe you've got nothing but potential with this. And that's why I was an early adopter and honored to be part of the program. I personally think it's a no-brainer, but to each their own. They need to do their own logical evaluation.
Right.
Now, about being like others, despite the roller coaster I went through, I was blessed so many times. And until I got my mindset around all the incredible opportunities that I had and all the positive, instead of like, why don't I have a Ferrari yet? And why don't I live in a $5 million mansion? And, just all that money thinking that we're programmed to do. And don't kid yourself, social media is so bad for that. And there's so many people selling on that. But anyway, I did have the blessed opportunity to be taught and coached by so many mentors. I could name names, but one of them was the Minister of Port Authority for Liberia. And now he's like one of the global consultants for J&J. Another person was a pillar in the investment industry. And so these people taught me things and were forming me along the way in a way that enabled me to show up today and be able to deliver what I learned from them and so many others. And that's the key. You can only learn so much in your own lifetime, but if you learn from everyone's lifetimes, oh my gosh, the amount you can accumulate and grow to and evolve to. And I honestly don't think I operate like other realtors. And, there's fantastic realtors out there that are very focused on real estate and what they do, and they're building incredible teams. And, I'm surrounded by them in the GTA. But I don't know if they necessarily would be the right person to write a book or to do sales training or speaking beyond the scope of what they do, because they're very specialized. Whereas I've never been very specialized. I've specialized in a range of things. And, I think that that's a bit of a differentiator for me anyway, in my unique experience and my approach.
I like that. And that's where I was headed is that I'm Stephen for a reason. Why? Because I'm different than anybody else. So are you. So is everyone. But I take pride in just being myself and doing things. And again, I said this yesterday. I'm going to say it again. To me, in our business, it's kind of like being a parent to a certain degree, where we're trying to stop our children from making the same mistakes that we have. And that's always been the coaching technique and the presentation and the basis of what we're doing. And what I'm doing in particular is learning from my mistakes, not being afraid to fail, because I failed so many times along the way. What's a few more fails? I'm just going to brush off my knees and be better from it. And I'm quite proud of being unique. And I'm happy to hear you saying the same thing. Like, there's a reason for everyone, and there's a reason why we do things our certain ways. But I just think that your ways, that Michelle's ways, and so many other people's in my life need to be shared because they're so unique. So there you have it. We lost George there, Michelle. What do you think? Is he done?
Well, you know what? George has an amazing story, and if I lived in Toronto, I definitely would call him not just for the realtor that he is or the broker that he is, but for his training. You could tell that he's well backed by all the mentors that he's had, and it really
Yeah.
shows that he could lead you in the right direction. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love his uniqueness, and that's what I was trying to spit out there. And I love the fact that you and I are unique and so coherent and so able to do similar things like the show. But I am going to connect you, Michelle, with George immediately, so you have his contact information, and definitely follow through if he's willing to spend time and work with your team. Do it. You have a lot to gain from it. Anybody else who's looking for a mentor, a leader, both in business, in being just human, be honest, as well as being a realtor and a broker, give George a call at 1-866-530-7737. You can contact him at GT1. That's the number one, GT1Realty at gmail.com. He is the founder, the owner, the broker at GT Realty Group. George, good to have you back. I thought I talked so much that you jumped off. Can you hear us, George? And we'll just bring George back on here for a minute again and say thank you very much, George, for your time. Really appreciate you and all that you do and bring to the table.
Oh, Stephen, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I do apologize about the technical difficulties. But on the one hand, tech's amazing. Look, we're connecting across countries, etc., but sometimes it doesn't work. So,
well, that's just it. And sometimes you have sound blips, sometimes you have technical issues, but at the end of the day, this is just a way that we can put a face behind the expert. And again, thanks very much. I appreciate you, George.
And Michelle, let's connect. I'd love to do something for your team. It would be my honor.
Oh, that would be so awesome. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. My pleasure. That is a wrap, folks. I appreciate your time, energy, interest, and tuning in live, as well as all those viewers are going to be watching this on the recorded version. Any questions or concerns, any problems, any interests, contact us. Join our group on Facebook. That's the fastest and easiest way to get hold of us and watch these shows.
Mm-hmm.
Realtors Choice Network Group. Check us out. Find us. You know where to get us. And private message us anytime. Thanks a lot, guys. See you on Thursday.